Studies show that about 1,200 whales died between 2007 and 2016. But there are a lot of marine biologists claiming that the number is 10, 20, or even 30 times higher, meaning that thousands of whales are dying every single year because of ship collisions. Some of the whales that are hit wash up on the shore with giant scars on their lifeless bodies. Others remain pierced through and on the ship, but the majority is never seen. How's that possible? Well, there's something called the buoyancy of water. This basically means that some fish, when dead, will float to the top of the water. Remember that pet goldfish you had in 3rd grade that started swimming upside down? That's what we mean. Well, whales are the opposite of that. They are not buoyant, which means that when they're killed, they sink to the bottom of the ocean, never to be seen or heard of again. In fact, it's highly probable that boat captains don't even know that they're hitting whales while navigating. But wait a second, why do whales even get hit by ships so often? Can't the whales just get out of the way? Or better yet, can't the captain steer the ship away? The problem has many explanations. First of all, we need to look at large cargo ships, the largest of which can transport over 14,500 containers at a time. These ships are about 1,000 feet long and about 200 feet wide. If they're fully loaded, it's not uncommon for these container ships to weigh 220,000 tons. So, for a ship of this size to steer off course to avoid a whale would take dozens of miles. The curves can't be steep, otherwise all the containers would fall overboard and become underwater treasure chests. For this reason, it's really hard for a large vessel like this one to steer clear from a whale that might be in the way. On top of that, whales can only be spotted by ships when surfacing to breathe air. This process happens infrequently, and at short periods of time, a captain would need a great eyesight to spot that. Smaller boats hit whales as well and can get damaged or even destroyed from the collision, and still the same problem persists. The unpredictability of the whales makes it so difficult to avoid them. Okay, if ships can't avoid them, then what about whales? Why can't they just stay away from the ships? Well, that's a good question. If the whale-to-ship collisions happened only while the whales were surfacing to inhale air, the number of dead whales per year would be substantially lower. But this isn't the main reason that there are so many deaths. The problem has a lot to do with the whales' feeding habits. You see, blue whales and humpback whales feed primarily on these small crustaceans called krill. During the day, it's all good. The krill is photosensitive and avoids the sunlight like a vampire. During daylight, whales have to dive 1,000 feet to the bottom of the ocean in order to find the krill, so they never even see the large cargo ships floating on the surface of the water. But during the night, the krill make a migratory move to the surface of the water. When the whales feed during the night, they usually hit those large container ships, and this blow is usually fatal. Since the cargo ships aren't docked during the night and the frequency of the routes remain the same, the whales have a high probability of hitting them. Some have suggested that ships should sail only during the daytime and stop during the night, but this isn't the optimal solution. There needs to be a way that allows for cargo ship efficiency while protecting marine life. The two best solutions we've heard of have something to do with the location and the speed of the ships. You see, in some places like the Panama Canal in the Gulf of Panama, marine biologists have studied the migration routes of humpback whales, knowing the frequency and the direction very well. But they also know that the Panama Canal is one of the few places on Earth with some of the densest ship traffic in the world. So, how did they solve this? Well, first, they found out where the whale migration routes were tightest, and then set up a traffic separation scheme at these places. Now, the ships coming in and going out of the Panama Canal have to move along this predetermined route. To show you what it looks like, imagine a giant highway. Now imagine that highway in the ocean, and imagine hundreds if not thousands of ships sailing along the left and right lanes of this ocean highway. That's a traffic separation scheme in Panama. But now the question remains, was this successful? Highly. It's been reported that the number of collisions has drastically decreased since then, and the whales are better off for it. Perfect, now we can implement this strategy everywhere, right? Not really. You see, marine biologists don't know the migration routes of all the whales in the world. They do know the areas with the densest ship traffic in the world, but they have no idea how the whales behave in these regions. The US and Canada have ATBAs, which stands for Areas to be Avoided, and these areas steer ships away from the areas with dense whale habitats nearby. But it's still not perfect. This is why the solution proposed doesn't work. The second solution that we've talked about has everything to do with speed. You see, it's been determined that if a ship sails with a speed of only 10 knots, then the collisions won't be fatal. This will substantially decrease the deaths, and this is why it's practiced in the Panama Canal. If it could be implemented on all big cargo ships and required that they never exceed a speed of 10 knots during the night, then the number of whale deaths could once more be decreased substantially. So far, they were able to establish seasonal speed restricted areas in which, during a specific time of the year, when the whale populations are densest, the speed of the vessels in these areas cannot exceed 10 knots. So if we were to implement all of these solutions, surely this will solve the problem, right? Nope, it won't solve the problem because there's a thing called noise pollution. While in the past, people said that the ocean was deadly silent, nowadays, this isn't the case. The oceans are so loud that for whales, it's like living on a construction site 24/7. All of the cruise ships and leisure boats, offshore wind turbines, cargo ships, sonar, military exercises aka testing bombs, seismic exploration for oil and gas, as well as the noises produced by the breaking of icebergs all contribute to the noise pollution. And we all know that noise travels 4 to 5 times faster in water than it does in the air. This means that all of those factors we just mentioned get to spread faster and further. Since most of the marine animals communicate through sounds, including whales, we have now jammed their only method of communication. Imagine telling your friend that he should worry about a giant hole just around the corner, but there is a guy with a pneumatic drill behind you. Will your friend understand what you're telling him? Unless he can read lips, he won't. Well, whales don't read lips, they can only interpret the sounds they emit. If they cannot communicate, they cannot warn each other from the impending doom in the form of a cargo ship that is headed straight towards them. Exposing animals to the dangers of man-made noise has horrific effects on the health of animals. In octopuses and squids, it limits their stability, and some crabs get so stressed that they forget to camouflage themselves from predators. The whales, who have lived for millions of years in the ocean, have evolved into recognizing sounds for feeding, mating, nursing their calves, and remembering the migration routes, etc. Evolution for this took millions of years, and in the past 1 or 2 centuries, we have forever changed the oceans with shipping vessels. Whales cannot adapt to all of the noise in such a brief period, but for the sake of argument, let's say that they could magically evolve to recognize sound patterns and warnings from cargo ships. The problem would then be that they don't know that the big vessel floating above the water is dangerous. To them, it's just another fish. Even though they're smart animals, extremely smart, they still need our protection. That's why we as humans should develop new ways of reducing noise pollution in the water. Some wind turbines in the sea have something called bubble curtains. These things are reducing the sound levels by 4 times or more. So, you see, with a little effort, everything is possible. This is Koala with Koality Content. See you soon. YouTube thinks that you should watch this video next.